Welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today magazine and Recovery Today podcast, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself or loved one, or maybe you're actively in recovery a little while or many, many years, you're going to find all kinds of information related to topics on addiction recovery and really living a happy, successful, sober life at Recovery Today. My name is Rob Hannley. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and as usual, every single guest that we ever have is amazing. This one is no exception, except we're going to take a different angle to the whole discussion around recovery, around substance use disorder. She has, there's so many initials here. She has an MA, a PCC, a CBFRLC, which I don't know even what it is, a CTPC, and she is known as the foremost family recovery coach in the nation. She's the founder and CEO of Family Recovery Resources and the BALM, which stands for Be a Loving Mirror Training Institute for Family Recovery Services. And this is really so we're going to do something a little bit different. We talk so often about the addict or a person with substance use disorder, but we really don't talk that much about the family. And this is all a fabric here. So my guest today is Beverly Buncher. Beverly, thank you for jumping on with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here, Rob.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. We're going to talk, of course, about the book. We just said a minute ago. You do have a book out, so I'm going to start promoting everything right now because I think it's so amazing. The book is called BALM. You can find it on Amazon, or I'm sure on their website. BALM, The Loving Path to Family Recovery. And we're going to talk a whole bunch about love and everything, and obviously with the focus and intention on the family. But the first question that I want to ask you is, you know, other than the biography here, the professional kind of curriculum vitae and all of that, how did you get into this, and how did who are you, and how did the BALM start?
Great question. My sister got into recovery in '84, and I have permission to share that. And I started to go to Al-Anon. And I thought to myself, and I like to go to AA meetings, and I'm in OA. I like to go to meetings, especially Big Book. And I thought to myself, I'm learning a lot in Al-Anon. I could be with a person. The way I said it was, I could be with an alcoholic. That would be easy. I could handle that. I remember specifically saying that. The fact is, I'd always often, let's put it that way, dated guys who had alcohol or drug challenges. And I was used to it. I didn't, a lot of people did drugs back then.
Yeah.
And then I met my husband through a mutual friend, and I liked him. I liked him a lot. And the first time we met, I was going to an Al-Anon meeting, and he took me to the Al-Anon meeting after dinner. He picked me up at my house. He said, "How come this is
like
a short
date?
date?"
Was an Al-Anon meeting?
It was a date. We were going to dinner, and I said, "I only have an hour because I have an Al-Anon meeting tonight." He said, "Al-Anon." He goes, "My mom's in Al-Anon." I said, "Really? Are you recovered?" And he said, "I'm crazy as ever." And I thought, okay, he's recovering. Wrong. He was in active addiction. And
typical thing to say, of course, some kind of manipulation.
Right. And we had a whirlwind romance. I fell head over heels. I knew I was making scary choice. But we were really good in many ways. And we got together and we got married, and it was a nightmare because I was watching somebody die before my eyes at the age. He was 32, I was 28. And I realized I was in big trouble. He was in big trouble, and I didn't know what to do. So I started to go to a lot of Al-Anon meetings. And what I mainly got was, "Get out. What's wrong with you? There must be something. What is your problem?" And I'd go to Families Anonymous, and the parents would say, "You're crazy because we can't get out. this is our kid, but you're a newlywed. Leave. I mean, this is,
Wow.
this is what I heard. And
Wow.
I do believe that Al-Anon and AA are at their core love.
Yeah.
Over the years, overtaken by tough love. I have theories on that. I talk about it in my book. But
That's one of my questions.
yeah, but I wasn't leaving. I didn't want to. As I said, I always dated guys who were a little different. I just had to figure out how I was going to help him and help myself. Now, in those days, I was going to fix it, right? I was going to fix him. And that was, that's every family member's wildest dream. And of course, I found out I couldn't fix him. And about 9 months in, I kept badgering him, doing everything I could. I fix him up with friends of mine from AA. Was just wild. This one friend said, he was my neighbor. He said, will you please stop inviting me over? He doesn't want to meet me. He doesn't want to talk to me. Okay. And then one day I found a book, and the book was called The Dilemma of the Alcoholic Marriage. And it was an Al-Anon book. And in that book, it explained a story of a woman. And this woman had been harping on her husband for years. And every night she would come home from work. I don't know if she went to work, but she would make dinner at 6:00, right? And it would sit at the table. She'd eat hers. His would sit there till 11. She would wait there at the table for him till 11. He'd come in drunk as could be, and she would start screaming. And she would scream for a couple of hours, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, make dinner at 6. And somehow somebody from Al-Anon found her. She found Al-Anon. She went to a meeting, and she found a sponsor. And the sponsor said, here's what you do. At 6:00, you make the dinner. If he's not home by 6:30, you cover it over, you put it in the fridge, you dress up, and you go to your Al-Anon meeting. When you come home from your Al-Anon meeting at 8:30, if he's not home, get ready and go to sleep and live a life. And of all things, most important thing is love him. He's a person. He has a problem. So she did that. And the first time he came home at 11:00 and he shook her and he said, what's going on here? And she said, oh, hi, honey. Well, I made dinner. You didn't come home. I put it in the fridge. You could go have it if you want. I went to my Al-Anon meeting and I went to sleep. I'll see you in the morning. And the next day, same thing. The third day, he stayed home to see what was going on. And by the fourth day, he was going to AA and she was going to Al-Anon. And they had a happy ending. That hit me like a ton of bricks. No one ever told me to do anything like that. So I did it. My husband came in one day and he was jonesing. His shipment hadn't arrived. He got stuff through the mail. I didn't even know until that day, but it hadn't arrived. And he was ruffling through everything, going through the house like this. And the only thing he could find was a bottle of vodka. And he was not a drinker. But that was a wedding gift. He took that bottle, guzzled it down. All I did, normally I would say, no, you can't do it. Don't do it. No. But instead, I just said nothing. I just watched. And I remember standing there watching. And I watched him go into the bedroom and guzzle it and pass out. I checked his pulse. He seemed fine. I took a blanket and a pillow and went into the den. I do remember hearing him retching and throwing up. The next morning, there was a stench coming out of the bedroom. He came out of the room and said, what the hell happened? I said, well, honey, you came home. I guess your shipment of drugs didn't arrive. You were desperate. You got the vodka. You drank it down. You fell asleep. You woke up to throw up, and here you are. And he said, what? He said, why didn't you clean it up? I said, sweetheart, number one, I don't think it's my responsibility to clean up your throw up. And number two, you would never have believed this story if I had cleaned it up. And he went, oh. And I said, and now I have to go to work and I love you so much. And I gave him a kiss and went to work.
Wow.
And that day I came home from work, and lo and behold, there was a letter. Hi, honey. I am so sorry. I am very, very sick. I've enrolled myself in treatment. Here's the address.
Same
And I
day.
love you
Same
very
day.
much. You know what? It's been 36 years. Was it the same day? Was it the next
Well, it's
day?
a good story. Good part of the story.
Yeah, it's a
That
good
is
part of the
amazing.
story. But it was an amazing thing. But here's the other part of it. And it might have been before that incident. I don't know. It's in the book in the right order. All of a sudden, I looked at my husband after I was reading this book and really trying to have a new view of all of this. And all I saw was love. This was a man I love. He's a beautiful human being, and he's in trouble. And I don't know how long he's going to be around. And I remember putting my arm around him and telling him how much I love him and how I'm sorry that he has this struggle with substances. And we didn't say that in those days. We said with drugs. And, I love him very much, and I'll always love him, whether he gets sober or he doesn't get sober. And I just wanted to know that. And he put his arms around me, and we just held each other. It might have been the next day after that. But the point is, however this happened, it was a miracle. It was a miracle. And when my husband got out of treatment and gave his lead after a month or 2 months or a year, I don't even know, he told everybody, see that girl over there? She's the reason I'm sober. And I went over to him and I said, Alan, don't ever say that in public again. I'll be kicked out of Al-Anon. That's what we were taught. Didn't cause it, can't control it, can't cure it. And you cannot fix this.
So how did the how did BALM come to be then? And also, where did you come up with Be a Loving Mirror? Because I know that there's therapists that do family coaching or family therapy and things like that, but you're as I read in the introduction, you're known as the top, that in terms of family therapy and family
not
coaching.
Family therapy. I am not a clinician. I do not train clinicians. We are life coaches specializing in family recovery.
Okay, but you're still really, really good. You speak to the family, and you're really, really top of the whole game. How did this come to be then? That you said, I think I'm going to start a place
Loving Mirror
family.
I believe that when I stood there next to him and he asked me what happened, I held a mirror up for him of what was going on. I told him, just like that lady in the book, I told him bit by bit what I saw. No judgment, no elaboration, the facts. That eventually became the BALM program. My husband had a relapse of 20 years later, 18 years later. It took me 5 years to remember that I had done that. And when I remembered, I did the exact same thing. And guess what? He got in recovery. Around that time, I was learning to become a life coach. So I'm a prayerful person, and I had been guided to work with families of persons struggling with alcohol and drugs. And I knew I had something to share. At first, I just said, go to Al-Anon. And people told me basically to go to hell because they didn't want Al-Anon. And I didn't understand that. But I knew that I could help them. I could teach them how to do what I did, but I wasn't sure how. So I prayed about it. And I wrote a lot of blogs. And what I noticed that when I talked to people about this idea, I called it Be a Loving Mirror. That if you stand in front of someone and you just share what you see and hear with love, always starts with love. You share the facts and you share a concern and you end with love. That's being a loving mirror. And I wrote about it in a blog. And I got so many responses. And I talked to my person who was helping me build a business. And we decided that Be a Loving Mirror would be the most powerful way to help people because that's what hit their hearts. And it ended up being BALM. And I remember it was so funny. I'll never forget. Ebony was my marketing person at the time, and we would call it BALM, just cryptically when we were working on it. And she'd say, one of us would say, "Oh, it's corny. Don't use that." But after a while, we realized, "Oh my God!" And I said to her, this method is a soothing balm for people after trauma,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it
this
really is.
brings the temperature down. And so that's how BALM came to be. And I started with 12 principles that I wrote, and I used to call them the themes of BALM. And every month I would have a different one that I'd focus on and offer free talks. And then I I asked my higher power, how do I help people with this? And there's so many people who need help. And I was told they will come to you. And then I said, yeah, but then there's going to be so many. How am I going to help them? And you will start a school. And so I had
So
the
divine
totally
inspiration.
divinely guided. Yeah.
Divine inspiration was what led you from something that was a blog post into we should start this as a school and start to duplicate this to where we can really have impact. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And when I was teaching those principles, we had family classes, and then I was training coaches, and the coaches said, but we can't get families to do what you do. What is it that you're doing? These principles are information. You're helping people transform. And I sat in meditation and prayer, and what I realized was that there were really 7 steps that I was going through with families. And I wrote it down as the 7 steps to be a loving mirror. In the beginning, only I could do it because only I, until I wrote it down, I could do it with a family and teach it to them. But today, families take our 1-year program, they learn the principles, they learn the steps, and they own it.
So let's jump into the love side, because one of the things that I loved about Be a Loving Mirror is when we were, chatting pre-interview and getting to know each other, was you talked a lot about unconditional love. And I would like to know what unconditional love is or means to you or what you teach. And I also want to contrast that to whatever most people know, the term tough love. So what is unconditional love and what is tough love?
Unconditional love is seeing your loved one, the person with the challenge we refer to as the loved one, seeing your loved one through the eyes of love. And we're talking about unconditional love. It's not what did you do for me today? It's not how did you behave well today? It's just you are, and I love you. You're a child of God. I'm a child of God. I use the term God. We have a lot of people in the BALM who don't, they use universe,
Whatever,
yeah, but it's not to us, it's just that to me, child of God. And my loved one who has a struggle in this area is just as holy and pure and wonderful as
right?
Someone who doesn't have that struggle.
Same with somebody that's I like to say, same as somebody that's got tuberculosis or
Right.
missing a finger or they're blind or any other kind of whatever. Everybody is there's nobody that is incomplete, I don't think, either, and or deficient. And that's one of the main things that I think not just us but everybody that is in that's in this community. They'll say changing the stigma, but what that means is, what is the stigma? And the stigma is that there is a moral deficiency. There's something wrong with you. There's a moral deficiency. And I like to think of this not as something that maybe is genetic, maybe it's not, whatever it is. I think of it as a contagious, socially contagious epidemic is what I like to describe addiction as. A socially contagious. You can catch it. You run with the wrong people, you think the wrong things, et cetera, et cetera. But that's just my 2 cents. So the whole idea of unconditional love versus tough love, and how do we refine this kind of thinking then, where you're not
Right.
wanting something from somebody, and I assume it bleeds over into marriage, which
Yes.
is all part of everything. It's not
Yes.
just about treating or helping. So talk to me about and that versus this tough love type of a thing,
Right.
because those suffering substance use disorder, we know are very, and just human beings, were very manipulative. So how do we not be manipulated?
Because it's not about action.
Mm.
Enabling, for instance, is not unconditional love. It's a response to manipulation that is very unhealthy. And there are those today who say there is no such thing as enabling. I disagree. We, in the BALM, we define enabling as anything you do that makes it easier for your loved one to obtain their drug or substance or process.
So all the way back to your husband, if your husband had said, back in the original part of the story, hey, I need money for drugs. I mean, maybe now, I mean,
Right.
you might have done something differently back then, but I guess now somebody says, well, my kid, my loved one, whatever, says, I need money for drugs. Will you take me? Or will you do this? Will you do that? Then the answer is like, what do you say to that?
Yeah. Well, you're really asking a very complex question because, if you take somebody to treatment, treatment centers, you better set
Hopefully
some
that's a
boundaries
good
for them.
question, by the way, too.
It's a phenomenal,
Okay, good.
it's a
All right.
phenomenal question. So you take, I've had many people come to me in the beginning and they say, the treatment center says I have to set boundaries. I can't say no. I can't do it. So we take people through a process, and principle 7 is setting a boundary. And step 7 is setting a boundary. First of all, what is a boundary? A boundary is something you do to protect yourself. It has nothing to do with your loved one. So if your loved one says, I need some money, and you know that their money that they're earning is going to drugs, and that if you give them money, it makes it easier for them to use their money for drugs, you have a decision to make. Do I want to be part of their process? I don't want to help kill my kid. And I get to say no to that. I'm not trying to control him. It's not about he's bad and I'm not doing it. No, everything about this program is attitudinal. And what we help people get is an attitudinal shift. So they change from somebody who's going to control it, fix the outcome, to somebody who is looking at intention with awareness and making decisions about how they want to contribute. Because we have 7 C's in the BALM. You didn't cause it, can't control it, you can't cure it. You can contribute to recovery. Number 4. Al-Anon says you don't have to contribute to it. I spent years trying to figure out what that meant. You can contribute to recovery.
And you're not, of course, against Al-Anon, right? It's not like you're
I
against
love Al-Anon.
Yeah,
I go to Al-Anon. I go to Zoom meetings. I love it. I love it. Sometimes it upsets me because I've created a solution-based program. And I believe that love is the answer, that you can get your life back, and you can actively help your loved one get theirs back too.
And that part, the action part, that part actually is different in Al-Anon, right? Because isn't the whole idea of codependency that, like, I want to fix the person, and that sounds a little bit like I want to fix them when you're so how do you help them to get their life back?
Yeah,
you're supposed to be hands off,
right?
Everybody's
That's
a free agent.
Great question. Yeah, but we don't say hands off. What we say is our third principle is let go without giving up or giving in. So what are you letting go of? It's not let go and let God. And I have nothing against God, as you know. It's let go of your obsession with having it turn out the way you want it to be. Wow. Of course you want him to live. So you're telling me I have to let go of wanting my loved one? No, we all want them to live, right? But you got to let go on your result. You don't know God's will for this person. You don't know their life journey. You don't know. My life didn't really begin until I started to accept that my loved ones' paths might be different than what I want them to be.
Mm, that's
And
good.
so so let go of obsession without giving up on them. In the BALM, the way you don't give up on someone is you learn how to practice these 12 principles and 7 steps because they're full of everything you
Let's
need to
actually go
know.
through. I think you numbered some of them, but I want to make sure that we hit all of them. Why
Okay,
don't we
sure.
jump, because you've mentioned them a few times, why don't we jump into actually what the steps are?
Sure.
Because as I said, I really
Sure.
want to spotlight your program the
Sure.
best that I can.
Well, why don't we start with the principles?
Okay.
Okay. Principles are foundational. Our program is divided into 3 parts:
Yes.
information, transformation, and support. The 12 principles are information. When you finish those 12 principles, you've got an education in family recovery and recovery. And the first 4 are called the attitudinal shift principles.
Okay.
And that's where, so here's the first 4 principles. The first one is, I can't remember my principles, and I know them like the back of
You
my
made
head.
them up.
Come on. I think I'm having a freeze.
Oh no.
The family has a crucial role to play in a loved one's recovery.
Okay.
In principle 1, the family has a crucial role to play in a loved one's recovery. What does that mean? We believe that you're always contributing. A family is either contributing to making things worse or contributing to making them better. That's the role. And the whole program teaches you how to contribute to make things better and not worse. Principle 2, change happens in stages. We use the Prochaska model of the stages of change, the trans-theoretical model of change. We teach that to all of our families, and we also teach them motivational interviewing by Miller. And our families learn how to actually have loving, rapport building conversations that help their loved ones go deep into what they really want for their lives. And they know which questions are appropriate to ask at which stages because they've studied the stages of change. Now, I have been in Al-Anon for 20 years when I took my first coach training. It's the first time I ever heard of stages of change and motivational interviewing. And it changed my entire life. I felt like if somebody had told me that from the beginning, I would have been able to help. So that's the second principle. Third principle, it's important to let go of your obsessing without giving up on your loved one or giving in to their manipulation. That's the long version. It's important to let go without giving up or giving in. The fourth principle is you can be your loved one's best chance at recovery. So what does that mean? How? By not enabling, by getting out of denial and into awareness. We say that denial is the glue of the use disordered system.
Wow.
Yeah. Denial.
Say that again. Yeah.
Denial is the glue of the use disordered system. So I see you do something, right? You're the person who's got the challenge. I see you smoke a blunt. Okay, say. And I know you've got a problem with that. And I say, I saw you smoke that blunt. What? I told you I'm not doing that anymore. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm nuts? Would I risk blah, 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 right? And then before BALM, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, blah, blah, or whatever. After BALM, it's sweetheart. I believe my ears and my eyes. I don't believe your lies. And I love you very much, but I saw it. Mwah, walk away. Okay. That's breaking denial. How do you get there? First of all, you hear and see so many lies when you're involved with somebody who has these challenges, right? So we teach our families to document. Write down what you see and what you hear. In the beginning, people would ask questions like, I don't like the way he does the toothpaste. Should I write that down? And I said, well, does that impact his ability to get into recovery? No, not really. Okay, skip that one. So we're looking at things that could have something to do with addiction or recovery. And so that's it. Get out of denial into awareness. Then the The next thing is leverage. We're very big on leverage. What is leverage? Leverage is motivating a person. It's negotiation in order to motivate. We recommend that family members use these in conjunction with the professionals in their loved ones' lives. And after a while, you learn how to use leverage. Your son wants a car, or he wants to keep his car, but he keeps totaling it, or he wants you to, your husband wants to come home and live with you and the children, and you want him home, but you don't want the house trashed. You don't want your jewelry stolen. Sweetheart, you go to treatment and follow their instructions, and we can talk about coming home. So it's leverage. I have something, you want something, I have something you want, and we negotiate. And then finally, boundary setting. And we talked about that. So those are the key ways that you can be your loved one's best chance at recovery. Those are the first four. We call those the attitudinal shift principles. And the reason they're first is because without that change in attitude, you don't want to do anything else. You're just so ticked off. You're just like, what the hell am I going through?
So you give an example about somebody not being allowed to come home, or a barrier not being allowed to come home. Is it the same exactly as you can no longer live here anymore? Maybe it's a parent to a teen or a young adult or something like that. I remember my mother, and I had a very large family, and my sister she was, even when I was a kid, so I'm 56, in the early 70s, my sister was a teenager, 17, something like that. I was probably 10, and she's a heroin addict. She shot up, back like the Vietnam kind of era, whatnot. Did heroin before it was cool, or the first wave, that we have. And all of it just complete chaos in the house, growing up with a full-blown addict, as your older sister. And I remember, and then, she got off of that methadone and whatnot. But even later in life, I always tell people my sister had died of complications to cancer. But really, I always say she had cancer of the life. When she was actually fully blown sober, wonderful, amazing, smart, empathetic, intuitive, all the kind of things like that. But with alcohol, just add alcohol, there was poverty, and my mom would say, like, well, what am I not going to give her money? Like, how do I not? She'd be on the street. She'd be, like, I'm not going to have my daughter like literally doing tricks or whatever on the street. So it's so tough to think like, you can't live here anymore. Or how it's one thing to say, honey, you can't come back, but it seems to be very different, especially if it's a parent and child, to say, you can't live here anymore. I won't give you any money anymore. How does that, is it the same thing?
Yeah. So everything is intent, and everything is about why you're doing it. So and maybe I did use an extreme example, but the fact of the matter is that there are certain times, if it's not safe in your home to have someone there, then if you have other children to think of, you have choices to make. So it might be that you need to invite them to leave. We say, whenever you set a boundary, always give options. Sweetheart, it's no longer safe for you to live here. Here are some options. There's a treatment center that really works great with heroin addicts. There is a homeless shelter down the street. And you have your Uncle Joe in Kansas.
So you're actually offering you're offering brainstorming potential solutions, saying, don't know where you go, you're not here. Is that right then, a little bit?
That is not the core of BALM, but sometimes it gets to that. Mm. That is not the core. The core of
this reminds me a lot of Love and Logic, by the way. How you raise children is like, your kid does whatever. it really wasn't the miracle pill for us. We raised our kids that way, and our son
Mhm.
was beyond a handful. Like it was,
Mhm.
but it was like, yeah, I'm really, really sorry that that happened to you. And so, as a result, this other thing over here can't happen, or,
Mhm.
yeah. And it was all about like, these are your decisions, and then here's the consequences for it. And like, you're not even the person imposing the thing. Like, it's like, gosh, I'm really sorry that you did such and such, but
Mhm.
like, now what
Mhm.
are you gonna? Oh, you wrecked your car. Like, now what are you gonna do?
Mhm.
Because which implies like, I'm not fixing it for you,
Mhm.
and that's gonna, wow. Have you looked at like bus cut? I guess from a helpful, I kind of see a little bit turning the knife a little bit. I guess you're gonna have to ride the bus now, or you're gonna,
Mhm. So here's the thing. It's not like get out of my life, you lower than life person. It's like I love you so much and I see how your behaviors are resulting in this, this, and this. Now, here's an example. Let's say you have somebody who comes out of treatment, and we had this situation, one of our families came out of treatment, had to get shoulder surgery, had to have narcotics to get. So mom moved in to a small apartment with her child after treatment. Everybody thought, oh, this is terrible. Not at all. She moved in and she administered the drugs. When he was when it was that's enough,
because they
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 really
feel good.
right. Well, he needed them. He
Yeah,
had to have them, but
yeah,
he only needed we all knew what he needed, and that was it.
yeah.
And then when he was better, she helped him find a sober living place. And she stayed in town for a while and helped him learn how to use the buses. He was someone who started using when he was 12, and here he was 18. He knew nothing about life. Why are some people so unsuccessful in recovery? They have no life skills at
Yeah,
all.
it's almost like they're time warped, right?
That's right. And so somebody's got to help them. Sometimes it will be the treatment center, the aftercare, the
And
recovery
she
coach.
could, of course, picked him up and taken him to work and done all the.
That's right. No, she wouldn't. She showed him how to use the bus. She did not get him a car. For 3 he eventually went to a wonderful sober living
But mom,
hour.
I'm working now, and maybe you could give me a loan, and I can get a car, and then
Right.
I can be paying you back on that.
Sweetheart, that won't be happening. And I love you so much. There are plenty of buses.
I'm
Well, and
getting the
she
fact that
sold, by the
I
way,
love you so
she
much is,
sold, and I love you so much goes at the beginning and
and I
end
love you
of the
so much.
conversation.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
love is the key. And love isn't about giving, giving, giving. Love is a connection. It's a
Wow.
connector. We are connected at a level deeper than the substance use disorder. That's
Mm.
our fourth C. You are connected to your loved one. At, your connection to your loved one transcends their use
So
disorder.
good. Such a great information. So give me the whole, please. Give me the whole. We've got the principles. I
Those are
don't
the
think.
first four
Okay,
principles.
the first four principles,
Yeah, there's
but
12, but
there's 7 steps, you
there's
said,
7
right?
steps. Once
I want to get
people
to
learn
the
them,
information part, like the information, and
well,
then
this
what I.
is information.
Okay, well, I already got
So this
information.
is information. The
I
principles
want to
are
get to the bullet
information.
point information.
The steps are the transformation.
Ah,
So
that's what I'm
once
looking for.
people do the
Yes.
first 4 principles, then we take them through the
Okay,
steps.
okay.
And the steps are: 1, be the peace you wish to see in the world. This
Mm.
is where we teach people to have a daily practice of peace. For some, it's contemplation. For some, it's mindfulness. For some, it's breath meditation. Your choice, but you need it. It needs to be something that'll lower your blood pressure, clarify the world for you through interconnection. And that's step 1. Be the peace you wish to see. I need peace. These people won't give me peace. I can't have any peace with addicts in my house. Blah, 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 blah. You be the peace. You be the source
So
of your.
good. So good.
Yeah. Step 2: objectively observe what your loved one does and says. That doesn't mean watch them and scream. It means observe it. Oh,
You're a
And
scientist and they're kind of a lab rat.
that's
You're
right.
like,
Or you're
that's
a
kind of
reporter.
curious.
You're a reporter. You're curious. You're a reporter, and they are the subject of your news story. And when you can, break off and just jot down the facts. He walked in, his pupils were dilated. He rolled over the couch, passed out. The next day, Mom, why am I laying in this funny position on the floor? Well, sweetheart, you walked in, your eyes looked different than they usually do. You rolled over the couch and passed out. That's it.
And I love you very much.
And I love you very much. Yeah. And then the third one is become aware of your inner emotional landscape without judgment. So what does that mean, to become aware of your inner emotional landscape without judgment? You are being the peace, and then your loved one walks in and does whatever, or they totaled a car, or they drove into a bus station or whatever, right? I mean, into the side of it, right? And all of a sudden you're objectively observing that your heart rate is going up and you're become aware of your inner emotional landscape. How do you feel about this? So for each of these steps, we teach between 5 and 15 different activities, methods, exercises to deal. So it's very important to be aware of how you're feeling so that you don't have to take it out on people. When we're aware of our feelings and we're watching them, we don't have to, it's a lack of
Always the
awareness.
observer. It's kind of even observing ourselves then.
Yes. So step 2 is observing the other. Step 3 is observing the self without judgment.
So interesting because that also feeds into depression. And I've made, I don't think I've, told you this, but anybody that's followed recovery today for a while knows that I talk a lot about depression, and I've had some really bad depressions in my life. By the grace of God and getting information and looking at things differently, it's been many, many years of long periods of, and sometimes with complete bliss, but understanding some of the things where stuff might not be going so well and then knowing what to do. And one of them is actually observing. And I watched a video a long time ago, and the guy was talking about seeing storm clouds. I'm looking out the window to see storm clouds, and there's a storm coming in, and it's almost this difference of like you're inside the storm rather than sitting there and observing it and thinking, wow, like it looks like it's going to rain. Now, I don't mean a hurricane or something like that, but like, looks like it's going to rain, but you're not thinking it's going to rain forever. And so you're kind of curious, like, wow, like, and so, or I like to say that you're the character in your own story. And I love movies.
A little bit of detachment.
Yes. And so you're the character in your own story. When things don't go the way that you plan, those are a plot twist, and it's what makes the story interesting. And then it's like, well, this is going to be interesting to see how this turns out for Rob. This is going to be very, that's a freaking, didn't see that one coming. That's a real twist. And actually not even knowing that. And then also because we're the authors, I think that there is going to be some kind of happy ending because the game's not over until we say that it's over. We can somewhat make up the rules. And well, it is because I say that it is actually. And so I love this whole idea of detaching and saying, well, that's kind of interesting that, this happened. So I just had to kind of put the piece in about it because I see that very much in depression and taking yourself out and going, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I wonder why I feel bad, actually. What's the reason for that?
Like that. I like the Arnold Patton's line, whatever happens to you, stand back and say, wow, so that's what it's like to be married to someone with a substance use disorder. Gee, so that's what it's like to be depressed. So that's what it's like to go back.
Oh, that's so good.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
It really is like, wow, I just discovered this, but I'm not that.
Right, right. We are not our thoughts. We are not our
Wow.
experiences. We are deeper.
So that's what it's
We
like.
are spiritual. We are
So that's wow,
present.
that's so good. Okay, let's go on with the others. With the that's so good.
So, so the first three steps, we call those the inner transformation steps
Okay.
because that's a lifetime of work. Be the peace, become objectively observe, non-judgmentally, become aware of your emotions. One, two, and three, we're doing it all our lives and perfecting it. Then there's the communication transformation, the outer transformation. Step 4, document what you see and hear, just the facts. You remember that Dragnet show,
Yeah,
Just
just
the
the facts,
Facts,
ma'am.
man, just the facts. And so we say, document what you see and hear, step 4. Script, step 5, a loving conversation. Start with love, share the facts, your concerns. If necessary, only if necessary, set a boundary. 99% of BALM conversations do not include a boundary. But when you need one, you need one. And there's a whole thing on how to do that. Step 6, have a loving conversation at the right time and in the right place. You invite the person to the conversation. You don't attack them with it. Sweetheart, there are some things I'd like to talk to you about. When would be a good time? You want to make sure they're lucid and you want to have that conversation with respect, which a BALM conversation always is. And finally, step 7, if necessary, set a boundary. So that's the 7 steps. And people take, this is an 8-week course that people take again and again and again. People sign up for the BALM for 1 year and they
Okay.
take that course like 50 times. They love it so much.
And do
It's
they
being
become
offered.
certified then as a result? What happens at the
No,
end?
the families that take the course, there's a
Oh.
family.
Oh, because you, first of all, you offer the services to the families, but then you also offer services to have people be coaches as
Yes.
well,
So
correct?
people can just become balmers where they learn, they have information
Balmers, I love
transformation
that too.
and
See
support.
the whole idea of the salve thing, Balmers. I love that.
Yeah, it is nice. And the way that evolved was I had this Texas family and I called them up. I worked with them, the mother and the father and the wife. And I called up the mom one day and I said, "So how's it going down there?" And she goes, "Oh, we're just balming away. We're a bunch of balmers down there." And it caught on, and everybody now calls themselves balmers in the community. It's kind of cool. Um, so where were we?
Well, we were covering a little bit about what I like to think of is in terms of we talked about this before the interview started, like, who's the audience, and I explained the audience to Recovery Today. What do we want them to do? So I want this interview
Oh
to
yeah,
connect with those that need to be the connection,
yes,
and that they can get in touch with you, or also if somebody's a coach, or they think they want to be a coach, or they think they want to
yes,
they feel drawn, led into this kind of field, that they can also tell me about your program, where what does this entail for those that want to learn about this to actually provide services, because you have
yes.
your own tribe, your own
Yes, we do. We have trained 100 coaches now and thousands of families. And the families take this 1-year program. Many of them get a coach while they're going through it. And then some of them decide they want to be coaches. We have people who are therapists and coaches from other places, and they decide they want to. Our program is the first completely, fully accredited ACTP, accredited coach training program through the International Coach Federation. Last I looked, it was the only one to focus on family recovery. And we are life coaches specializing in family recovery. Our coaches study the BALM, they study how to teach the 12 principles, and then they take a year. So the first 3 months is the BALM, and then after that, it's coach training. 6 months of life coach training, 3 months of advanced life coach training, 3 months of family recovery coach training, 3 months of business development.
Oh, so you even help them launch their,
Oh, very
get out
much
to the
so.
marketplace.
I mean, my theory is, and I always said when I started a school that I'd make sure people knew how to do their startup and how to make it happen. Because when I was becoming a coach, someone said to me that only 25% of coaches make more than $25,000 a year, and I was like, doesn't
Wow.
sound right. And many people just take it to take it. And I was like, well, I was very ambitious. I really wanted this to be the way I earn my living
Yeah.
because I wanted to save families. So I wanted to make it possible for other people to do that. So we have an extensive business development course. And then when people take the 8-week course on how to facilitate the 12 principles, there's more business development there.
Well, my opinion is if you do something like this, you've got a spirit and a heart to help other people. And, I don't believe that making a little bit of money is holier or more authentic, or I'm not about anything. And you don't have to be about the money. It's just a tool, but it's like gasoline. You don't have you got a little gas in your tank is not better than having
we have noise here, so I'm going to try to see if I think they're cleaning the porch or something.
Okay, no problem.
Does this help at all or not really?
I can hear you exactly the same as before.
Oh, okay. So you're not hearing.
I actually didn't hear any noise at all. I wouldn't even have known.
Wonderful.
But you look cool with your headset, your headphones. And I guess we're kind of a little bit, because I want to give enough information that people can connect with you, because obviously we can never do enough justice or service with even this kind of length of a time of an interview. But I know that one thing I didn't ask you, and I think you already alluded to it a little bit, is peace is the path. So I want to highlight and underscore that a little bit, that you become the peace, because isn't this the part of the cornerstone that we talked kind of pre-interview? Oh, one other thing I want to mention too is I guess before we kind of bring it in for landing, is the whole idea of prevention and pre-intervention. Talk a little bit about prevention.
We say that prevention is early intervention.
Early intervention.
Yeah. So what is early intervention? For us, that can be, if you come into the BALM and you have a teenager who's experimenting, you're going to prevent problems by intervening through the BALM. And the BALM, an interventionist once told me that the BALM is a form of drip, drip, drip family daily interventions that allow the person to possibly wake up and hopefully not need a real intervention. But if they do, they're more willing to go to it.
And what this is really all about, what they're going to get out of what happens out of this as a result of those that go through BALM, is they experience less stress, more joy, more living in the moment, more freedom, that they're not carrying all of this guilt and baggage and things like that. And they're also able to help and to contribute something meaningful to the recovery of those that they love. That's what this does.
Absolutely.
Is that a good summary?
We guarantee that if you practice the BALM, you will have peace and you will have a good life.
What else do you want?
And we say it's likely that you'll be able to help your loved one, but we can't guarantee.
Yeah. And I love the stories of people that you're talking about pre-kind of interview, that they've got loved ones that are incarcerated. And they're, normally they're angry, all this kind of stuff like that. But instead they have this time that's like, no, caught them up on the news. They shared some funny stories about the place that they're in at the time. They do this, that, and the other. We were in the moment, and then we were gone. And so I think that we are far too attached to outcomes, far too attached to what we visualize as an end result. And, this is, we're dealing with human beings with complexes. Is very dynamic.
Exactly. Since we don't know the end of the story for anyone else, including ourselves, why not love today?
We wouldn't want to know.
Whether we would or not, we don't. So why not love them as they are today? And how do you do that? That's what the BALM teaches. How to love them and how to help them move forward if that's if that's in the
So
heart.
if somebody is in need overall, they think, well, God, I've got a teenager, I've got a this, I've got a that, and they want to connect with BALM. How do they connect with you and BALM, and what are the first steps?
You can call us at 1-888-998-2256. And our outreach line is number 5, extension 5, and you'll speak with Karen. If you want me directly, I'm extension 1. And by the way, prevention is early intervention. If you have a 50-year-old and you start practicing this now, you're preventing later problems. So prevention is early intervention applies whatever the age of your loved one.
So good.
You don't have to feel like this is for young people. No, it's for families who want to love themselves and their loved ones and hopefully help them get better.
And if in the same place that they contact, if somebody is a coach, wants to be a coach, thinks this is where I want to be helpful, they have a connection there.
Karen will speak with you. I'll speak with you if you need a coach.
And what is the website, by the way? I didn't think we spotlighted the website. What is the website?
Okay, so there's bealovingnmirror.com.
Bealovingnmirror.com.
Lovingmirror.com. We also have a website, BALMFamilyRecovery.com. Those are our 2 websites.
Are they distinct? They're different, or they're?
Yeah, it's just Be a Living Mirror is the newer one. BALM may have more on it. And then once people are in our program, we have the BALM Training Institute, which is BTI, BALM Training Institute.
And so there's an ongoing trajectory and an ongoing group of people that those that actually want to be a facilitator, be a coach that they can do and they can run with you for a good long time.
Yes. And many people start as a family member, decide they want to teach the BALM, then they want to be a coach. Some of our coaches become our faculty members, and often families, we're starting to have the second generation of coaches and families. It's really
we want to talk more about everybody else. We want to save a life first of all, but we also want to talk about the lives of everybody around the person suffering substance use. And so I really appreciate this time. I would love to have you back to contribute more, because I think this is it's underserved. People always are talking about the addict or the person in recovery and how they stay sober and all the kind of stuff like that. Yeah. And there's not a lot to help them with sanity. I mean, there is, and we said, Al-Anon and things like that, but not every shoe fits somebody entirely.
That's right. That's right. This will be the right fit for some people, and there are other things for other people. We're here. We're here, and we want to help you and your family grow. Like, something that I was going to say, and I lost the thought.
That's okay. There was so many good thoughts. With my ADD, I have to always get my thought out.
I know, it's sort of
I'm going to forget it. It's gone.
Fire hydrant, right?
Right. Absolutely. Well, this has been another great, fun, enlightening, I don't even know how many other adjectives of an interview, all about the family, about BALM, Be a Loving Mirror. You can connect with Beverly Buncher at Be a Loving Mirror. We'll have everything in the thing like we normally do in the feature, bealovingnmirror.com. And thank you again for your time and all of your work.
Just the main message is there is a solution and you can be part of it.
Good, really good. Well, with that, we're going to stick the landing, and this is a wrap.